Happy Hispanic Heritage Month, everybody. This is the Slider Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about Latino, Hispanic, and Spanish representation and why it matters. I'm not quite sure how long this video is going to be. It's kind of a hard topic. Well, it is a hard topic for me to talk about because, I am black, I am not Spanish, but I do understand representation and why representation matters. And a group of people who want to see themselves on screen, but don't always get to. And when they do, they're not always shown in the most positive light. When I did the whole why black representation matters, that was a whole lot easier because I knew for a fact who was like black in Hollywood and stuff like that. But when it comes to the Latino culture and stuff, and that of Hollywood, there are some that you know for sure, but then there are others where you question and you're not quite 100% sure. And so then when you look it up on the internet, like say Miranda Cosgrove, you're even more confused and everything. Because, okay, when I used to watch iCarly and stuff like that, I always assumed Miranda Cosgrove was just like Latino. She just looked it to me, you know what I'm saying? I'm not Latino. I don't always know what Latino people look like. There are some people who look very Latina, and then there are some people who look white Latina. So it's always been confusing. And she's always had like that tan. And so when I looked her up on the internet, it says she's Irish, English, and French, but they don't necessarily say what race. And of course, all those can just be linked to just like white people and stuff. But then when I go even further, it says that she's Spanish, Portuguese, Jewish, Italian, Maltese. And I'm just kind of like, well, that's probably her ancestry, but what are her parents exactly? Because it's kind of like, that would help me out so much, but there isn't that much information on her. So I have no idea what she is. And, when it comes to the Latino race, they're underappreciated in Hollywood and as in other countries, especially that of America. And it's quite sad, you know what I'm saying? There's like a huge stereotype against Latino people and stuff that even goes all the way to that of politics. And of course, a lot of people believe what those politicians say, but it's just that to like put down the Latino people and stuff. And that's very wrong, and it goes all the way into Hollywood and stuff. And so when all this like negative energy and news is spreading all around, it makes people not want to see them and everything. And they need to be seen and they need to be heard, because they're just like everybody else. They're a good, they're a bad, it's just you always have like a mixed bag of people and stuff. But then when it comes to Hollywood, it's really hard to find many Latino people in like on TV and movies and stuff. Like Latinos make up the probably third largest population in that of America. Mostly when you see people on television, it's mainly white and black because those are the two largest groups. Every other group after that, you rarely see on TV. And if you do see on TV, they're played by people who are not even Hispanic and everything. The majority of like Hispanic characters you will see on a television, a movie in America are like either played by white people, Jewish people, or Italian people with really good tans. And for somebody like me, that confuses the crap out of me because I always assume that they are who they say they are because they're playing that role until you look them up online or you keep reading all the controversy surrounding them and everything. And then it's all like, well, what the heck, man? It can't be that hard to find Latino people in America and have them act. They are Latino actual actors and actresses, but they don't take those roles or even offer those roles and stuff. And it's like, why not? And a lot of times, when it comes to Latino people, if it is an actual Latino person on screen, they'll have them play like probably like a stereotype. they're always playing like the villain, like the gangsters, or like some type of like drug cartel, some mob boss or something like that. And very rarely will you see them like, and then like another stereotype, I'm trying to think, like there's this stereotype that says that Latino people are lazy. And so every once in a while you'll see a comedy where you'll see a Latino person or a white person playing a Latino person, or a cartoon sketch where they have like a Hispanic person being lazy. That happened one time in South Park where they had like a bunch of like Mexican people talking about, oh, I'm so sleepy and everything like that. And that was just like a huge, like, slap in the face and disrespect to like the culture. But then again, that's South Park, so what do you expect? But they ran with that joke because of that, of a stereotype and stuff. And I don't know how that stereotype came to be and everything, that Latino people are lazy, because the ones in my city, they're pretty hard working. And not only that, but they're pretty hard working like in America and stuff. I mean, you always hear people complain, oh, they're taking our jobs and everything. Well, if they're taking their jobs, that means they're working hard. Like, I remember like when they hired Latino people to do like roofs and stuff, they work really good and really fast and everything. And when you see non-Latinos doing roofs, it takes them like an entire week just to fix like one little thing. But it'll take like a Latino person 1 or 2 days and stuff. So I don't understand this whole stereotype of like, they're not hard workers and they're like lazy and stuff. And there are tons of actual Latino, like, actors and actresses who would love to, like, have like certain roles that are meant for them, but then they don't even get those roles because like they're cast by people of other races, like with good tans. And so, not to mention, people want to see themselves on TV and they want to be represented, and they want to be represented in a good light. Like, think about superhero stuff. Comic book stuff is like really huge right now. And, how many Latino superheroes do you actually see on television? And not only do you actually get to see, but like that aren't like a stereotype to where they're like running really fast, or like, I don't know, jumping. I don't know why most Latino superheroes jump like really high in the air in comics. Like, I don't get that. And so like, but most of the time it's just like, it's those same certain type of roles. But like, I can't even really think of any Latino superheroes in comics and stuff. Like, I really can't. And if there are most of them, they wear their traditional Latino heritage clothes, and it's kind of like, well, that's kind of weird because they're a superhero. Why aren't they wearing like a costume? And so some comic book companies are trying to push that. Like, there's a Latino Green Lantern and stuff that many people know of. I think Kyle Rayner, I think, is. You have, but then other times when there are Latino superheroes in comics, they're mixed with like different races. Did you know that there are actually two Hispanic Spider-Man in the comics? There's Miles Morales, one of the newer ones from like a decade ago. He's half black and half Latino. And then there is Miguel O'Hara, who is Spider-Man 2099 from the future. And he's half like Hispanic and half white. And so I've always wondered, when it came to both of them, how come Miguel just isn't full like Latino? You know what I'm saying? And how come Miles isn't either full Latino or full black? Now, it's okay to have a mixed race because there's tons of mixed like races in the world. And after like researching a lot of Hispanic stars, a lot of them are actually mixed and everything. But then again, it's kind of like when you do look it up on the internet, they're going way, 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 way back to their ancestry, to that of their grandparents, great grandparents, and other stuff. And it's just kind of like, it gets confusing. That's why I hate when I try to look up somebody's race online, because they go far as back as like prehistoric times just to find out what these people are related to. And so I get like so confused and stuff. Because like I told you about how like I was trying to do like a video on Lelaine from Lizzie McGuire, because I always assumed she was Mexican, you know what I'm saying? And so, because that's what the show said. And but then when I looked her up, it's like, oh, you're Filipino and everything. And so then I thought, well, she must be Asian. And but then I looked even deeper into Filipino culture, because I had a friend who's Filipino in college, and she always looked Hispanic and always had a Spanish sounding voice, but she was actually Asian. And she told me a lot of Hispanics colonized that country. So after doing further research, and yeah, they did. So the actress Lelaine, who did play Miranda, she actually is Hispanic and everything. And so, like, back to the whole superhero thing. I know I went off topic, but the actual first Hispanic superhero I've ever seen was actually on Power Rangers. And when it comes to Power Rangers, a lot of people see their first, like, person of color, like, superhero and stuff. Because, like, I've talked about this before in black representation and stuff. I've seen a few black superheroes, but Zach from Power Rangers, the black dude, he was probably my second or third superhero that was black I ever saw on television. Because, of course, as you know, on most superheroes, whether it's comics or TV, are predominantly white and everything. And so when it came to that of Steve Cardenas, who played the Red Ranger, Rocky, I didn't even actually know he's like Latino and stuff, because I just didn't know, because he just looked white. Like, he's one of those type of Hispanics that just like happen to look white. And when it come to Karen Ashley, who played Aisha, I knew she was black, but I never knew she was half like Mexican and half black. And they never addressed that her race, like on the show. They just always had her as predominantly black and stuff. And Power Rangers is, like I said before, it's one of those shows where you will see, like, tons of like non like white characters and stuff. It has a lot of diversity. There have been other like Latino superheroes in Power Rangers. However, once they went over to New Zealand about 20 years ago, that's when things started to go less diverse. Because when they went to New Zealand, a lot of times they would just get like New Zealand stars to play Power Rangers, but then they would like, fly over American and Canadian stars, but never really know like Hispanic ones. And the Hispanic like Power Rangers started to get lesser and lesser as the seasons went on, and the Disney and in the Nickelodeon era. Go figure. Disney and Nickelodeon stuff. And so like I remember when I used to watch Power Rangers, I'm just like kind of like, well, where the Latino people at? I don't see none. And then they would have somebody on there who played a Latino, but they weren't Latino. And I'm just kind of like, because they were there from New Zealand. Now, New Zealand is mixed up of different races, but a lot of those races you really can't tell. Like, there are black people in New Zealand, but a lot of them you can't tell because they're mixed with other stuff. Now, there's a group of people called Maori, and there's Pacific Islander, and there are other races. And when I actually looked this up harder, I found that there are actually Spanish New Zealanders, but you won't know it because they don't really let them be on TV and stuff. And I've learned from Taika Waititi and some other people, and this article I read, they're pretty racist over there, just like in other countries and stuff. Like, they treat black people like, they don't all treat black people like crap, but a good number of them do and everything. And Taika Waititi, the director, he exposed his own people and, and said that they're just as racist as any other country like Canada and America and stuff. And so I was just all like, well, I've seen a few New Zealand shows and I've seen a couple of American shows over there, but I've never seen a Latino actual, like, New Zealander. And if I did, I had no idea. You know what I'm saying? They were and stuff. And, and the sad truth when it comes to Latino representation in like Hollywood, not only are most of them always played by like other races and their stereotypes, but when you actually do get a Latino um actor or actress, they'll have them play a completely different race. And I'm just kind of like, why? Why not just make that character Latino and everything? And if they do bring in a Latino star, like say Disney Channel, I just read, like I had no idea because they just finally stuck. Because a lot of these former Disney kids are exposing Disney Channel and stuff, and it's like this one actress, she was told to not add Latino, and it was kind of like, well, why not? You added a Latino on the show, but they wanted her to act as white as possible. She said. And a lot of these younger Latino stars who do things like Disney Channel and like, Nickelodeon, all these other teen dramas, a lot of them have like abandoned their Latino roots and stuff, mainly because Hollywood has kind of forced that onto them. Like when all these shows tell them like, try to act more white or, and then most of them drop their last names. Other ones don't even know much about their like upbringing and stuff and their culture because America has diluted it down. Like I remember I was watching one of those Hollywood like true stories and they had Eva Longoria on there. And I know she's Hispanic for a fact and like, she's very famous. And what I didn't know is that, the guy who also played her husband, who's also Latino, they was talking about how like it's been a long time since I saw this. I hope I am correct on this. They said like when she was younger, she had blonde hair, and she had to dye her hair blonde. And I was like, well, that's kind of weird and everything. And they said it was because parents of like young Latinos and stuff, they wanted them to fit in with like society. And so what they would do is that they would dye their kids' hair blonde. Many of them didn't grow up speaking Spanish. They tried to blend in as much as possible with white America and stuff like that. And I was just kind of like, man, that sucks. Like you're completely erasing that of like your history and stuff. And because those were like crazy times back then. And I truly believe this because I remember I was watching this other show called Ann with the E, and they had some Native American people on there, and they talked about how it was in Canada, and and also in America, they would like force these like Native American and indigenous kids to like go to school, learn English, forget their culture, and they will force them to like integrate into like a society. And when their parents try to get them back, they will threaten to shoot them. And this is like documented and stuff. So I believe that when they say they try to make people like forget their culture and stuff, because that happens a lot. And these two characters, like for most time when people think of Latino characters, they think of these like characters from like Desperate Housewives, the Eva Longoria character and the guy who played her husband and the two people who played her kids. And because they was prominently on the show and it was a predominantly white show, and so people got to see Latinos for like the first time, but they weren't always portrayed in like the good light on the show. And that's a problem. Another thing about Hispanic representation, they aren't always portrayed very well. Like the guy who played her husband, who played Carlos, he was very ruthless and everything. He was a shark. He stole money and everything because he was in this high like corporate business type thing, and he did money fraud and stuff, and he went to jail for that. Then when he lost his eyesight, he actually became a very humble man. Him and Gabby lost their money, and so they had to like rough it. And this was around the time of season 5, I think. And so we got to see a different side of the Salinas family and stuff. They became not as cruel as they used to be, because Gabby used to cheat on her husband. She was very money hungry and everything. Because see, she grew up like poor. Her father like touched her and stuff. And so she always said when she grew up, she's gonna grow up rich. And she found the rich man, and that's what she always went for. So she never really married for love. She always married for money and everything. And that's a really sad look when you're watching the show. They're the only Latino people on TV, and one's a gold digger and one's like a corporate shark. But it was nice to see in season 5 when they humanized them and made them nicer people and stuff. Until, of course, they got their money back and they went back to being mean and rude and stuff. When it came to Desperate Housewives and the characters I just got through mentioning, like I remember in the commentary that I heard in season 1, they were upset at the creator Mark Cherry because every time their characters would come on screen, Mexican music would start playing. And they told the showrunner creator that, this is really offensive. Just because we're Latino don't mean you have to always start playing Latino music. When white characters show up on screen, they don't play pop and rock and country music. Whenever there's a black character, which is very rare because there weren't that many black characters on the show, you never heard R&B or hip hop. So why is their music always playing for like them? So by season 2, they stopped doing that and stuff. And I can understand why they're like upset, because all of a sudden the Hispanic characters come on screen, and then all of a sudden their music's playing when the other race is like that. And that happens a lot. Like I know sometimes you'll see like a black character on a white show. It could be like a movie or something like that, and all of a sudden you start hearing like hip hop music, like all of a sudden to let the white audience know, hey, you see that person on screen? They're a person of color, in case you didn't notice that with your eyes and stuff like that. And it's great seeing characters getting race bent, which I know angers a lot of white nerdy people and stuff, and they made millions of videos about it. But most of the time, they don't even recognize that like their character has been race bent to Latino. Take the dude who played the werewolf by night. I had no idea he was Hispanic. I didn't even know who the actor was. Like I didn't bother really researching nobody and stuff before the show came out. And so like the actor who plays the werewolf, the main character, he's actually a Hispanic actor and everything. And and none of the internet people went crazy about, oh, they're taking our roles and their race, because nobody knew. And when it was shot in black and white, nobody could really tell. And, same thing with Neymar, the actor who plays him. Everybody knows he's a Hispanic actor. They've race bent their culture to have more Mexican influence and stuff, which is not like that in the comics. And of course, some people got upset and stuff like that. But like one thing he told, like, the writers and directors is that he doesn't want to play the villain because he said there are too many stereotypes of Hispanic people on screen playing the bad guy. And he is not going to do that. And I respect him for standing up like that, even though Neymar at times is a villain, because he first showed up as a villain, then he's kind of like anti-hero, then he's a hero. And so like I respect the fact that he stood up for like his people and didn't want to be portrayed as like villainous and stuff. Because I remember when I saw like the first Fast and Furious movie, there was like a Latino gang of like car racers there and stuff, and I'm just kind of like, are there any good ones in that movie? And most people don't even know that Vin Diesel himself is like Hispanic, but of course he played like a villain as well. And and this is sad. Like you always see this portrayed on TV, and when you don't, it's always good. Like the George Lopez show is one of those unique shows where it's a predominantly Latino cast, and they're shown in like a good light. This is very rare. La Vida is a show I just started watching a while back, and like I didn't even know this show existed. Like it's a predominantly Latino show. Now, of course, there are many types of like portrayals on this show. You have like it was really interesting to see inside their culture, because there's a lot of stuff I didn't know. Because like one of the main characters, she's very educated, very stuck up, very rude, and a lot of the other characters don't like her because, like, they say she thinks she's white and she forgot her roots, and she lets them know, I grew up and, like, on these streets just like you did and everything, and I just decided to, like, educate myself and get out the system and everything. And then you have another character who's very loose in the goose, let's put it that way. And stuff, and she's a little bit of a ditz in the head and stuff. And then you have this other character who's very rough around the edges, ghetto. She wears, like, the black the what is it? I don't know if she wears black lipstick or the black outline around the lipstick. I think it's black lipstick. Like, a lot of, I remember this one girl I met in college, she said she went through that phase in high school where, like, a lot of Hispanic girls would, like, use, like, black lipstick and or dark colored lipstick around their lips and stuff like that. And so she's more the rough, tough ghetto type who wants to, like, push out all these other, like, white corporations out her neighborhood and let it just be, like, a predominantly, like, Latino neighborhood. And she's kind of like an activist for, like, Latino rights and stuff like that. It's a very fascinating show and people should really watch it. It's on Hulu. Well, only the first 2 seasons. For some reason, the last season is not on there for some reason. But I haven't finished watching even that yet because I've been busy doing other stuff, because I made the mistake of getting one too many streaming sites at one time, and I don't like to keep it past that month or a week or whatever. And so I've been, like, trying to watch as much stuff as I could on HBO Max and Disney Plus. Now Halloween is coming up, and I just haven't had time to even finish those last, like, 6 episodes. I gotta hurry up and watch it and stuff. Now, when it comes to Disney Channel, that's actually where a lot of more younger people, whether they're kids, teenagers, or young people in college, get, like, a lot of, like, Hispanic, like, not representation, and also their first glances at a Hispanic culture. Kinda. See, here's the thing about Disney. I've talked about this before briefly in my other videos, but, like, for me, I didn't really never see no predominantly, like, Latino shows growing up. And so Disney Channel was the first time I actually got to see many Latinos, like, actually on screen. And that's a lot for a lot of young kids. Now, the problem is, even though Disney kind of tries, they don't try hard enough. Like, Disney Channel is very racist. Let's just put it like that. And they build on stereotypes. And even when they have representation on their shows, they still favor the white stars more than others in the white audience. Even when they have a Latino character or a Latino based show, they're still trying to generate that, like, white, like, audience appeal and everything like that for ratings and money and stuff like that. Because, like I told you before, the actress Lelaine, she was on Liz McGuire, and she was the only Latino on the show. And, in Hollywood, when she was growing up, she just went by her first name. She completely dropped her last name. She's Lelaine Vergara Perez. I can't really pronounce that. Look, I told you before. My tongue don't roll that way. Perez, something like that. But she is Filipino. And so for 20 years, I assumed she was Mexican because that's what they said she was on the show. Because on the show, see, the thing about Disney Channel, you will have a Hispanic character, but you really won't learn nothing about their culture. And if you do, it's going to be one episode and one episode only. And you will rarely hear them speak Spanish on the show. And so when it came to Miranda, she didn't have that many solo episodes because she was just the best friend. But one episode she had in particular was, like, the Halloween episode when they did the whole Day of the Dead. And I actually learned some stuff about that. I talked about that. Go watch that video. And so I was thinking to myself, cool, they actually showed something about her heritage on the show, because they really rarely do that when they do Disney Channel. But it turns out she's Filipino, but she's from Hispanic descent because, like I told you before, Hispanics have colonized, like, the country and stuff like that. So there are Asians and there are Hispanics, and there are people who are mixed with both, and stuff like that, which a lot of people don't know. However, America does not consider the Philippines to be a Spanish like culture and stuff. So in American eyes, she's not Latino, even though she is. And she exposed Disney Channel a few years ago, I think in 2019, and she said that they told her to act more white, plain and simple as that. And she didn't understand. So she was just kind of like, well, is it bad being who I am and everything? So all her life, she's even said she's never like explored her Latino roots and everything. And she's just now starting to do that and everything. She's starting to like really embrace like the Latino in her and stuff. Because for so many years, she's just like kind of like abandoned it, kind of, because she just didn't understand because, in this country, they don't really emphasize on that. And I believe her because like Raven Simone, now, I don't like Raven Simone, but Raven Simone was told on her Disney Channel show to not tan because like, they said, oh, it's because of like the lighting and the camera, but no, they just didn't want her to look too dark. Because when Disney Channel do hire people who are black, they go for like, especially Hollywood in general, they always go for the light skin, like, black person. Like on this newer show that they have about villains and stuff, there's a great like biracial black actress on that show. She's like amazing. She's a great actress. She's funny. But she's super, super, super light skinned. And at first glance, you probably won't even realize that she has black in her and stuff. And, that's because Hollywood always goes for the lighter skinned people. They do that also in like the Latino culture as well. Like, then when it comes to like somebody like Demi Lovato, like she said growing up, she took her Latino roots for like granted, Now, I've only seen a couple of episodes of her Disney Channel show, Signing with a Chance. I couldn't get into it, but and so like when it came to her, she said she doesn't speak Spanish. Growing up in America, she didn't even know she was Latino. She thought she was white and everything because she said she didn't even look like Latino like most of them do. But you have tannish looking skin, so I don't know how she didn't know that. And but she comes from like a mixed family and everything and stuff, so that's probably one reason why. But she says now she's learning to like embrace it and everything like that. And so like when it comes to her, like I already talked about this movie, Princess Protection Program, she played a Hispanic princess on there, which is very rare for Disney because I don't think they even have any Latino princesses in animated movies or live action and stuff. So she will mark like the first one. Now they're about to have a second in the form of Snow White. They have race bent the character, and of course people are angry. They're like, Snow White has to be white. Like then some people even made the argument it's in her name. That's the dumbest excuse I've ever heard. Like, what is with the internet trolls, man? Like they act like they're the only people and the only race that should like exist in like the world and that of America. And so I don't know the actress name who is playing that of Snow White, but good for her for being Latino and playing that character and stuff. And oh, by the way, when it comes to Demi Lovato, she has once again changed her pronouns to she, her, so she's no longer they, them. So, if in the future, for the millionth time, if she changes her pronoun and you hear me saying she or her or whatever in the video, that's only because at the recording of this time, she goes by that pronoun. So, don't go to war. Because people go to war over pronouns and stuff. And so back to that villain show I was talking about when it comes to Latinos, there's an actor on that show who plays like the youngest family member. He's Latino. However, the family isn't Latino themselves. The family is actually, when you look in their actual like backgrounds, there are many different races. And so I don't know if this kid is even playing a Latino or if he's playing like a white character. Because like he's Hispanic. The main actress on the show who plays his sister, who the show kind of like revolves around a bit, she's actually Italian, but the mom is white, and I don't know what the brother and the dad are. So it's kind of like, is this dude even playing a Hispanic or is he playing like a white character? I have no idea. And stuff. And if he's playing a white character, that's like totally messed up. Like I get he wants like another role and he has a contract with Disney Channel, but like I don't understand Disney because like when it comes to Disney Channel and casting appropriate races, they've only had about 6 projects that were predominantly Hispanic and stuff like that. And so and they have like in all the years Disney Channel's been on the air and all the shows and all the actors they on the show, they've only had about like 5 shows that like no 4 shows that were like Hispanic and 2 Hispanic movies and stuff. And it's kind of like that's not enough. Like they need more. They need more Latino characters because like take Wizards of Waverly Place. That was a biracial show of Italian and that of Hispanics. That's supposed to be that of and so like and it's because of Selena Gomez because she is Mexican and Italian. So that makes sense. They will mix the show up like that. However, just because Disney Channel is showing representation don't mean they won't fall into stereotypes and stuff. They have been known to do that with the Jessie show. And Jessie, the white girl was like a teeny bopper ditz who loved fashion and used word like so what if and stuff like that. The black character, she was like greedy, sassy, and and always wanted like money and stuff and had a little bit of a ghetto attitude. The Indian dude, he was like super smart and super like dorkish and everything. And so they fall on like stereotypes and everything. And they do that even when they show representation. Like take Selena Gomez character. She's half in real life, she's half Italian and half Mexican. That's how she is on this show. However, she fell into the stereotypes of Hollywood. So her character Alex, her character was like very rude, a little blunt, and always got in trouble. That is a stereotype of like Hispanic people, especially Hispanic women and stuff, like with the bluntness. And then, Latinos, they're always criminal, stuff like that. That's the stereotype. Same thing with Italians. Oh, they're always villainous and stuff. And not only that, but like, cause she thing is she doesn't like to follow the rules. She likes to follow her own rules. She likes to break them and stuff. But one time they had to write her character off the show because Selena had to go to somewhere. I forgot where she went, but she had to go do something else. So they wrote her off the show. And guess how they wrote her off the show? Because it's a show that revolves around magic and witches and wizards and stuff. So when she was in the wizard world, off screen, she committed a crime. It was so bad they put her in wizard's jail. So Alex is literally just a bad girl. And that's such a stereotype to that of both the Italian and that of the Latino culture and stuff. Not to mention, Alex is very, very, very lazy. She likes to lay on the couch and not move. And when she has to like go look for the remote, she doesn't even want to do that. And that's another stereotype of Latino people being like lazy and stuff. Then you have her younger brother, Max. He's Mexican and everything in real life. And Max was as dumb as rocks. And, it made sense when he was younger because, little kids are stupid. But when he became a teenager, he literally became mentally inept and everything. And that's another stereotype of Latinos, that they aren't very smart and everything. And I'm just kind of like, why would Disney do this? You have like an actual person of color show, but you're falling into that of stereotypes. And then you have Stuck in the Middle. Stuck in the Middle is a show I really, really enjoy. I really, really like. And sadly, it only lasted for 3 seasons. You know what's crazy about these predominantly Latino shows on Disney Channel? They don't last as long as the other shows. Like Wizards of Waverly Place only lasted for 4. Stuck in the Middle only lasted for 3. And the other ones I talked about only lasted for 1 or 2. And so Stuck in the Middle was supposed to be a predominantly Hispanic show, the very true first in Disney Channel history that was not supposed to be that of a mixed race and stuff, unlike Wizards and stuff. Well, they didn't do a good job in the casting. Everybody was Latino except for 2 people. They hired a white actress and an Italian actress. And I was very shocked to find that out. What was even worse is that the white actress, like you couldn't even tell they're not Hispanic because the Italian actress, I didn't even know she was Italian. For over 30 years, I thought she was Latino and everything. I'll get into her a little bit later because I really liked her a lot and stuff. And so, but the white actress, she made headlines during the 2016 election. She said some very controversial things about Latino culture and stuff like, and it really pissed off the main actress who was on that show, who is Mexican and Puerto Rican and stuff. And so she called her out online, you know what I'm saying? And she didn't care. Of course, it probably put a bad taste in Disney Channel's mouth, which they probably like got upset about. But that actress, Jenna Ortega, did not care. She was calling that girl out and everything. And the rest of and a couple of other members of the cast called her out too. And so the white actress, Ronnie Hawk, like, I think that's her name. Like, here's the thing, she's white. And she's played other Hispanics before in another television series. Of course, when news broke out about what she said and her being on the other Disney Channel show, needless to say, they wrote her off the other show and killed her character off. And it was even to the point where because see, she got written off the Disney Channel show to do the other show. And on the other show, she got killed off because of her big mouth and everything. And it's kind of like, one, she had no business playing a Hispanic character. And two, if she is going to play one, don't run off the mouth. And then the thing about it is like she tried to defend herself, talking about, you don't know me, you don't know what I'm mixed with, and blah, blah, blah. Both her parents are white. We do know what you got in you. And so she just made things worse. And her life just went down the dumper after that with criminal charges, and she barely acts. And so she's getting her comeuppance and stuff. Now, as for the Italian actress, if it wasn't for her, I would never even heard of this show. I've been a fan of hers for many years. And even though I like her a lot, it's still disheartening that she took on a Latino role. Now, there's reasons for that. One, she was trying to escape her Hollywood typecasting, because ever since she started revealing a little stuff here and there in one movie, they kept asking her to do it in other movies, to the point where it pissed her off and she stood up for herself and said she ain't doing that no more. And because she doesn't want people just to see that one side of her. So I get that she's trying to build a career and more positivity and stuff like that, but it still sucks that she took on this role knowing she's not Hispanic. Now, she did reveal why Hollywood cast the way they do. See, her very first show in Power Rangers, like I said before, I always thought she was Hispanic because she just looked that way. Now, Power Rangers, she just played the alien, so she didn't have no race. And so the casting director told her in Hollywood that because you have a ethnic look to you, then technically, in Hollywood standards, you can play other ethnic type roles that look very similar to that of your complexion. So this is one reason why Hollywood doesn't cast race appropriation. They cast people of other races that look similar to that of the race they're supposed to. This is why they get Jewish people, white people, and Italian people with tans to play Hispanic characters and stuff. And so, like I said before, the Italian actress, she's a great woman, a really great woman and everything. But it's just disheartening knowing that she took that role and stuff like that. And so now Disney Channel tried once again to get the Latino representation right. And this time they actually did, with a superhero show called Ultraviolet and Black Scorpion. It's a great show. I like it. It's a superhero. It doesn't even really feel like a Disney Channel show. They're trying to go back to that old school Zoog Disney type stuff. And so, it's about a young Latino girl, and she finds this magical mask, and she becomes a lucha libre type, fighter type person, and she's a superhero. And it's really great because how often do you see a Latino superhero on a show? Sadly, however, there's a rumor that the show might get canceled after its first season. Now, Currently, there's only half the episodes have been aired. And so, like, with that, half of them been aired on air and half of them are on Disney Plus. There isn't much promotion for this show. They rarely talk about it. They're putting the rest of the episodes out on air now. The rest of them coming on Disney Plus later on in the year. If the rumors are true, then sadly, yes, this might get canceled because nobody's talking about it. Disney's not promoting it, but it's their first real true Hispanic, like all Latino cast show. And it's a great show and it's great positivity. But Disney is not like believing in it, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know why. It's not getting the ratings that it should, and sadly, it's about to probably get canceled. And it's really quite a shame in my opinion. 'Cause it's a really good show. It's better than most of those Disney Plus Marvel shows. So those shows just haven't been doing that for me. And it's great to have like Latino heroes and stuff. Like there was this show I watched back about 20 years ago. It's called Queen of Swords. It was a great take on Zorro. It was a female playing a Zorro type character, but she was not playing Zorro herself. And so the actress who plays her, she dyed her hair for the role because she really wanted. Now she is Latino and everything, but she actually has naturally blonde, light brown hair. And so she knew to get this role, and it's set back in ancient times that, she would probably have to get the role. It would probably be better if she dyes her hair black to seal the deal and get that role. And it worked and everything. And the show was amazing. It had lots of action. It had great representation. It featured like other Latinos and stuff like that. And it was really just a female version of Zorro and everything. And that's why it got canceled. Even though the show was doing pretty good, well, I don't know about the ratings, but a lot of people really enjoyed this show. And I talked about the first episode on my channel. Go watch that. I am going to talk about this more in the future. And so, one of the reasons why the show got canceled is because the people who make the Zorro show, they found out about this show and they're all like, well, hold up now, this is way too similar to Zorro. Like, it's basically just a ripoff. So they went to court because of that. The people at Zorro lost their court case. And so with that and with a court thing hanging over their head and ratings, they just decided to cancel the show. It was in syndication. It's on YouTube. My God, go watch it. It is great. And speaking of Zorro himself, Zorro is supposed to be a Hispanic Mexican icon, you know what I'm saying? Everything from the comics, the novels, the TV shows, the cartoon series, the movies. However, Zorro is normally always played by a white actor. I wanted to talk about the Zorro TV show for Hispanic Heritage Month, but I can't because the actor who plays him is a white Canadian dude. And I'm just like, why? Why is it like that? And that's how it was in those older black on white, I think, Zorro shows. I haven't really done too much research, but I think it was a white dude there too. And so Zorro has never really been played by a Latino until The Mark of Zorro came out. No, not Mark. The Mask of Zorro with Antonio Banderas. Now, here's the problem with this. This movie was extremely whitewashed. You have Anthony Hopkins playing, he's a white guy playing a Hispanic character. Why? Now, don't get me wrong. He did an amazing job in that movie. He was great in the movie. But he's white. He should not be playing a Mexican character. Then there's Catherine Zeta-Jones. She's white and she's playing another Hispanic character. Now, both of these people who I just named have played people of color before. Anthony has played a light-skinned black man in a movie. Lord Jesus have mercy. And Catherine Zeta-Jones, who is white, has played Latinos before, and she has defended her right playing Latinos. And I'm gonna get into another character where she's playing yet again another Latino character. And so I don't understand why, if this movie is supposed to be that of Mexican people, why did they cast white people as the role? Now, as for Zorro himself and Antonio Banderas, I always assumed he was Hispanic. Just the name, just the way he looks. But however, there is controversy surrounding his race and that of his country, and I don't know what to believe. He doesn't even know what to believe. So, here's the thing on him. He is from Spain. Now, Spain is kind of divided in two places. There are white Spaniards and there are Hispanic Spaniards and everything. But he was born in the white area. And so, America, it does, I think it considers Spain to be a Spanish country because they speak Spanish. I think. I'm not sure. Oh, I've talked about it before, so let's go watch that video. And I can't remember right now because it's been a couple of days like since I talked about it. And so when he moved to America, he was told to check the Hispanic box because he's from Spain. Yeah, so they are considered a Spanish country and stuff. So he was told to check the Hispanic box and everything. But he said he doesn't even really know what he is. He said when he's in America, he's Hispanic, but when he's in other countries, he's white. And so a lot of people and himself doesn't understand what exactly he is. Selma Hayek, she has called him Hispanic and stuff. I really don't know. I'm not, that's not my country. The government in America, they classify certain countries as Hispanic and not, like Brazil, they don't classify as Hispanic. And so I don't really know. Because if he was born of that white parents, I'm assuming and everything, from what I've did research and everything, maybe he's not. Like maybe he's just a white dude in a Spanish country, you know what I'm saying? But when he came over to America, he has to check Hispanic and everything. So if he really is truly white, then yet again Zorro has been played by another white person and stuff. Now this was this one Zorro show. And I've never been able to watch it, but I saw the intro. I love the intro so much. It's so great. I can't even pronounce the name of the show because I don't speak Spanish. But it was filmed in a Spanish-speaking country. And there were episodes online, but I didn't watch it because I don't like reading subtitles. And the costume where he wears is very similar to the one Antonio Banderas wore in, The Mask of Zorro. So it's not a spin-off of that per se, but they just use the costume for a template and everything. If this dude is truly Hispanic and everything, then he will be the first and probably only actor to ever be a Hispanic Zorro character. Yes, the guy from that Spanish telenovela Zorro show, he is Peruvian. So he is the first Latino to actually play Zorro, which is amazing. But of course, in order for him to be that, he had to do it in another country and stuff. And when it comes to also representation, it's great seeing Latino movies made by actual Latinos. Because Selma Hayek and Penelope Cruz, they decided to create a movie all on their own. Because they've been friends for many, 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 many years. And they wanted to do a project together. So they actually created this one movie called Banditas. I talked about that. Go watch that. And, they did a lot of their own stunts because, they couldn't afford a stunt crew and everything like that. And it's a really fun, movie and stuff. And it's great. But it's kind of sad that they had to make it themselves. And, Hollywood didn't consider them to make a movie like that. Lin-Manuel Miranda, just like Tyler Perry, he's a self-made man. He realized if he was going to be famous, he's going to have to do things his way, creating a number of plays and musicals and stuff like that. Hamilton being one of the most famous of them all. And now Hollywood is constantly calling him, banging down his door and stuff. And that's great representation right there. Now, Sofia Vergara from Modern Family. She was, I read this somewhere, she's supposed to be making a Latino female Zorro series for the CW. So far, it's in pre-production. I don't know if they're still going to make it or not. There's no word on that. And it's supposed to be set in the modern day. Now, speaking of her, she, of course, was great Latino representation to a degree on Modern Family. Modern Family was supposed to show a modern take on that of the real world we live in, where everybody's are multi-racist living in like one house and all kind of stuff like that. And she played a Colombian actress or character on the show because she's Colombian herself. Now, some people have argued that she depicts Colombians in a bad way because every time they talk about her country and her culture, they always bring up the negativity in her country and make jokes out of it and stuff. And I can understand totally why people are upset about that. Because it's like, if you want to talk about your country, actually talk about the good stuff. And they rarely do that on the show and everything because they feel like, oh, it's comedy, it's humor. You have to make fun of everything and stuff. And that gets so old and tired. However, it was great to see an actual like Latino family or a mixed one because like she married a white dude and her son came over to live and her son is like, Hispanic too. And then they both made another kid together. And then so that one's like mixed and stuff like that. So it was great to see like an actual Latino family and them to have like huge story roles on like a predominantly white show. One of the things I like so much about like Salma Hayek and Sofia Vergara is that like also Penelope Cruz is like Hollywood has told them many times, hey, why don't you lose your accent? Maybe you will get like more roles and stuff. But they refuse to because their accents are a part of like who they are, and they don't want to change just because they live in a different like country. And they still get like tons of like roles offered to them, even though their accents are very thick. And that's something that younger Latinos who are celebrities should like really like think about because many of them don't have accents at all. Like a lot of them are born in America, so that's probably why. But they still should have like a hint of an accent in them because of like their parents and stuff. But many of them just like don't have like accents whatsoever. Many of them sound Americanized. I don't want to try to sound more American because the TV shows that they're on tell them to act like, lose your identity and stuff like that. And that's quite a shame because one should never lose their identity. Now, when it comes to representation and missed opportunities and whitewashing characters, oh, Netflix, man, I'm getting disappointed in you. So there's this show called The Fate of the Winx Saga. I've never seen that, and I've never seen the cartoon the Winx Club is based off of. But it's a very girly, like superhero type cartoon that with fairies and stuff like that and magic. And then the show seems more like your typical modern day Riverdale type stuff, and they look like more like witches and stuff like that. Now the problem with this, two characters, they whitewashed. One's supposed to be Asian, one's supposed to be Latino. And of course they cast white people in the role. The role of Flora is supposed to be Latino. Her character in the cartoon is based off of a singer, Jennifer Lopez, because all of the cartoon characters are based off of real life singers of different races and stuff. And so for this, they cast a white actress in the role. And people, rightly so, were outraged and stuff. And Netflix should have known better. For the second season, they tried to fix this by saying she has a Latino sister who came to visit. That's not fixing nothing. Why not just recast that role with a Latino actress? Or they should have hired that one Latino actress to begin with. And you know what's crazy? Is that she originally had a Latino name, or I think her or the other character had a Latino Latino name or something like that. And so, but then when people found out, they changed the name to sound more white and everything. And I don't know if it was her or the Asian one. Now, the girl who's supposed to play the Asian character, the white girl on that, she needs to keep her mouth shut. Plain and simple as that. Like, I get it. Like, representation matters and everything, and she just needs to shut her big mouth because she's playing an Asian character and she ain't Asian and she needs to shut her mouth. So then we get to the Wednesday show, which I'm very looking forward to on Netflix. Jenna Ortega, who is best known for the Scream movie or Scream 5, and also Stuck in the Middle, that Disney Channel show I was telling you about. She is playing Wednesday Addams in the main character role. And like, so because of that, because she's Mexican and Puerto Rican in real life, so they race bent the character for the show. That's awesome. They also race bent the family for the show to match her, or so it seems. Now, the father, Gomez Adam, is played by Luis Guzman. And the guy who plays her brother Pugsley is also Hispanic. So I'm like, okay, cool. They're going in the right route. They're race bending the characters to fit that of the show and that of the lead actress and everything. However, they goofed up twice when it came to that on Morticia Adams and now that of Uncle Fester. They finally revealed Uncle Fester. This is where Catherine Zeta-Jones come into play again. She's playing Morticia Adams. Now, she's a great actress and everything. However, if Pugsley, Gomez, and Wednesday are Hispanic, why is she a white actress playing this role? Therefore, she is playing, yet again, another Latino character. Now, Uncle Fester has now just been revealed after all these years. And he is, let me see, he is played by Fred Armisen. Now, he's a very funny actor from SNL. But there's a problem. He's not Hispanic in any way, shape, or possible. He is actually Korean and German. I don't know what side of German. I don't know if he's white or he's Jewish, but he's not Latino. So why is he being cast in this role and everything? Because I don't understand it. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, why go to the effort of race bending the family if you're just going to cast two others to play Latinos and stuff? Now, maybe, just maybe, this Wednesday Addams is mixed with white and Mexican. So that could explain why there's two white stars playing these characters and stuff. If that's the fact, they need to say that and everything, because I'm very confused and everything. But if they're not, and they're actually playing Latino characters or whatever, then that's totally jacked up, because representation matters. Now, of course, there are those online that are screaming woke and like being replaced and everything like that, because most of the Addams family now are Latino. However, in the original Addams Family movie and Addams Family Values movies, the guy who played Gomez Adams in that was Puerto Rican, and nobody complained then, so don't be complaining now. And in the world of wrestling, there also needs to be like more representation in the Latino culture. Now, there are tons of Latino wrestlers, but I'm talking about like in America. And the biggest companies right now are WWE, Impact, and AEW. And you know, when it comes to that of AEW, they have Latino stars, but none of them have ever got the World Heavyweight Championship belt. In fact, every World Heavyweight Champion they've had has always been white and everything. And they have people of color in their wrestling organization, but they don't showcase them as being the World Heavyweight Champion. Now, however, they do get other belts. Now, over in WWE territory, they've had plenty of Hispanic characters before. And for many years that WWE has been around, since like the 70s and 80s, and probably a little bit further before that, but I think mainly around like the 70s and 80s and stuff, they've never had a Latino world champion until Eddie Guerrero won the belt. Now, he's won other smaller belts before in the Continental, I think maybe Cruiserweight, tons of tag championships, but he only got the big belt one time. Sadly, because Eddie Guerrero was dealing with a lot of personal demons and stuff when he was in the WWE and wrestling. Those wrestlers take so many bumps that they self-medicate themselves. And Eddie had lots and lots of demons. But people like myself were thrilled when he became world champion, because he finally earned, that belt. Like, he finally got it. That man has been trying for years and has never gotten it. And he finally got the belt that only truly matters in the WWE. But because of his demons, he was unable to keep that belt. And he never got that belt again because his demons took his life and everything. And so the WWE, they wanted to honor Eddie's like memory by giving it to that of his nephew, Chavo Guerrero. But for whatever reason, I heard Chavo did not want the belt. Maybe because his uncle had just died and he was in a bad headspace. Now, Chavo has won like cruiserweight belts and tag championships, but he never won the big WWE title. So they passed him up and they gave it to Rey Mysterio instead, another Latino superstar. However, Vince McMahon, being the devil man that he is, he did not want Rey Mysterio to be champion. Now, Rey Mysterio has been everything from Intercontinental to Cruiserweight to Tag Champion and the Heavyweight Champion and stuff. And so he gave the belt to Mysterio only to have him keep it for like a month. And I don't think he's ever gotten that belt again. The one reason why Vince did not want him to have it is because he does not like small wrestlers. He only wants wrestlers to be like, 6 foot tall and super muscular jacked. And Rey Mysterio is somewhat on the short side, and Vince does not like that, which is quite a shame. This is why Vince McMahon is the devil. But when Eddie won that belt, people were thrilled of all races, especially that of Hispanic races and stuff. And, people get thrilled like that because they want to see themselves on TV. They want to see themselves represented in a good light, winning championship belts and stuff like that. Now, over in the female side of wrestling, WWE, there's been a few, female Latino world champions and stuff, or as they call it, the Women's World Championship, or the Divas title, or the Women's Raw and SmackDown title. And many of these women are like Eve Torres, Marlena Perez, and Bailey, Bailey's real name is Pamela Martinez and stuff. And Bailey is just like amazing and stuff. Like, I really enjoy watching her wrestle. She loves the sport. I know Eve Torres is the same way. Marlena, I don't know how, I think she came in at first as kind of like a model type person, but she actually proved to be like a wrestler and stuff like that. And a lot of people don't really appreciate her because of her past with like Batista and the dude who she cheated on and stuff like that. But she was actually a really good wrestler and held the belt multiple times. Speaking of representation on like the Disney side, like how many Latino movies have they had animation wise? I think they've only had 2, to tell you the truth, and they've only been put out in the last decade. And look how long Disney has been around. It's been around for like since before I was born, I think. And and it's just sad that they've only had like 2 Disney animated movies that are Latino based and stuff. And then I remember I was baffled when I started researching into Fear the Walking Dead. Now, when it comes to Fear the Walking Dead, that show was set in California originally. And they had characters that's supposed to be Mexican. But then it turns out that these characters weren't even Mexican. One was Italian, one was like Puerto Rican, and one was Pakistani and everything. And I'm just kind of like, is it really that hard to find like Mexican actors? And then for the second season, they went over to Mexico, both story-wise and the film. And so, of course, actual Mexicans made up the background characters in that zombie apocalyptic show. But then they brought in more characters that was supposed to be Mexican and stuff. And once again, they weren't even Mexican. They were like Latinos of other races. And I'm just kind of like, dude, you're over in Mexico. It can't be that hard to find a Mexican actor and actress. So I don't get that. And, I just really don't understand the thought process of this and all. And this is why representation matters. Then you have the 2 actors and actresses from Star Trek Voyager. Now, Star Trek has always been diverse. It's one of the most diverse shows ever. However, you have black, you have white, you have Asian. However, you rarely have Hispanic characters on the show. You rarely have Hispanic characters as like the Starfleet people on the main show or recurring characters And then they did cast a dude who played Khan, but he was like, a villain, but he was a Hispanic dude. Then you get over to Star Trek Voyager. And this one was so confusing and confused the crap out of people. Robert Beltran, who played Chakotay, the second officer, they had him playing a Native American man, but he's Mexican in real life. And so I'm just kind of like, okay, if he's Mexican in real life, why not have him play a actual Mexican character? Why have him play a Native American character? One, that's offensive to both Mexicans and Native American people. But I don't understand the Hollywood thought process. And then you have Roxanne Dawson, which everybody is confused as to what her race is. Like, she has never, ever, and I mean never, ever, publicly stated what her race is. But when you look at her, she looks like she's either Italian or like some type of like Hispanic person, but nobody knows. And she played a Klingon on the show. Now, Klingons are like, they can be played by any actor. It's hard to tell what they are because they basically do brown face. Back in the original series, there was a stereotype of Asian people and stuff. However, they always do like brown face or black face, whatever you want to call it. So nobody knows. Like a lot of time, people assume the actors are black, and so then there are times where the actors do play black Klingons and stuff like that. But she played a Klingon, a half human, half Klingon hybrid, and so her mother was Klingon, and her father on the show was like white, and so nobody really knew what she was on the show. Some people didn't know if she was like half black because of the prosthetics and the makeup. But her skin wasn't really that brown like other Klingons. They had her natural skin tone, but they still added like a little makeup to hide the prosthetics. And so then nobody knew what race she was. Some people think she might be Latino. Some think she might be Italian, but nobody knows and stuff. And I don't know why she won't publicly like state it. Like, why not? You know what I'm saying? However, now with New Trek and everything, they are starting to bring in more Latino representation into the show, which is a good thing because older Trek really didn't have much of like none. Camila Mendez, she at first didn't want to take the role of like Veronica Lodge until they told her on Riverdale that they was race bending the character and making it Latina. And so then she took the role because she knew how powerful that representation would have been. And that's all I'm gonna say about Riverdale. You already know I don't like that show. And people really should give PBS some credit. I still remember one of the greatest kids shows I watched growing up, Ghost Rider. They had like 3 characters on there that had like Latino representation in the form of Gabby, Alex, and Hector. They had to recast Gabby because the first actress got tired of doing the show and being famous. But you had like three Latinos in one show. And not to mention when they added their parents to the show and stuff. That was 2 more additional, or 3 I should say, because the first mother left the show as well. It had to be recast. And people don't give this show enough credit as they do, only because it's an old, outdated 90s kids show. Now, the second remake of this show lost its Latin representation. It also lost its Asian representation and Jewish representation, going with 2 main white characters and 1 half black, half white character. That show didn't last that long. Even the brand new remake had a little Latin representation in it too. But by the 3rd season, they went with a completely different cast, and I don't know what it looks like. Even PBS knew the importance of diversity when they had a diverse cartoon cast, and Carlos was their like Mexican character. And even though he was more the goofier one who makes a lot of jokes, he was just as smart as all the other kids. So like when kids watch this show, Not only like, were they learning, but they got to see themselves represented in like this show. And that's what was so great about like, the Magic School Bus. Now, great representation that many people don't know is from a show on PBS Kids called Odd Squad. Odd Squad was this hilarious kids show where these kids are secret agents and they stop bad guys who are adults and they use the power of math to stop them. It's a PBS show, so you have to have the educational factor. But the first season starred two Latinos as the main particular role. That of Delilah Bella, who played Agent Olive, and Philippe, I cannot even pronounce his last name, Filippo, who was Oscar. No, I don't think he was Oscar. He was somebody else. Um, Otto, that's it, Agent Otto, and Philippe, he is Filipino and British. And so I believe he's from the Latino side of the Philippines. And Delilah, she's like has like a lot of stuff in her. But she does have like Spanish in her. Like let's see, she has Brazilian, Spanish ancestry, Brazilian, and I forgot the other one starts with a P. Oh, I forget the name of these people. Something that starts with a P. Not Puerto Rican, but the other one. Pan something. I can't remember. But anyway, yeah. And so I didn't even know. I knew he was something, but I didn't know what she was and stuff because they're both from like Canada and stuff. And so like I think that was really great because for the entire first season, they were like, the leads and everything. And both of them have gone on to like better careers. He's going to be in the Avatar movies. She went on to be in Anne with the E and everything. And, I think that's like really cool that like little kids got to see themselves represented in like them. And they were both very positive. He. He was the goofball, but he was a good agent, but he was kind of dumb. But Agent Olive, boy, she was like, the real thing. Like that was a very dedicated by the books type of agent and stuff. And I like that. And it's amazing that you have like Latino representation in a cartoon series than that of live action. Like take X-Men Evolution. It came out in the early 2000s. They introduced a character called X-23. And so her name is Laura. And so, she was just known as X-23 for the longest time. And so like when she started off, she was just like, a villain, anti-hero type person. She is the clone of Wolverine, a white like Canadian mutant. And so in her second appearance, because she tries to kill him in the first appearance because she's angry and she's been raised by the evil people. But then in her second appearance, she tries to take down the evil organization that created her. And so the creator said that she is half white and half Mexican. We knew she was something because they gave her brown skin in the cartoon, but we didn't know what. So the creators verified she is in fact Mexican. And this is coming from a cartoon series where they can have representation like that. And then but for the comics, for whatever reason, they changed her race to that of Mexican to Japanese to fit more in with Logan's history of Japan and stuff. So I'm not really sure why they did that, but they just did because I guess Wolverine spent more time in like Japan than he did ever Mexico. But then in the live action movie Logan, she was introduced and in this one she was half Spanish, half white because Daphne King is from Spain. And so, but she's from like the Spanish speaking part of Spain. And Daphne King was like amazing in this role. And she's also in His Dark Material, and the last season comes out this December on HBO Max. I talked about that show before. Go watch that. And it's so great that little kids can see themselves in this superhero and everything that was created in a cartoon series. Now Latina, who is a British half like Spanish actress, I didn't even know she was Spanish and everything. I remember I heard her singing in Spanish one time. I just thought she just knew Spanish. But when I looked up on her thing, I'm like, oh wow, she's like, Spanish. And so, like, this was cool because I first saw her in the Harry Potter movies as Tonks and everything, which they never explain her race in the movie because she's just a minor character in the movie, but she has a bigger role in the books. But her character in the movie started getting reduced more and more. But it was nice to see that, like, Latino or Spanish, I should say, representation in the Harry Potter movie because that movie was predominantly white and everything. And because that's how the characters were written. And her character is, white in the books and stuff. And so a lot of people just don't even know that, like, what she is. And, because she stars in a lot of stuff. But her race is never explained in none of those shows, so you always assume she's white or playing like a white character or something. But she was in this one show with Daphne King that was short-lived called Refugee and everything. And I think it was shot in Spain. I can't remember or not. So, yeah. So it's like she does do stuff that, of her heritage and stuff, but a lot of people be hard pressed to know because, when you see her on television, she passes as like white. And so when she plays these characters and you don't know nothing about her background, people always assume that. But, more people should, like, get to know the stars and celebrities that they see on television and stuff. Because most people don't even know they're being represented. Patty's Mexican Table. This is a show on PBS Create. And I love watching this show to death. It stars Patty Gendrick, Nick. I can't say her last name. I think it's Jennick or something like that. But, like, she's this really lovely, very kind woman who, like, has her own cooking show, and I believe it's in its 11th season. That's really good. The PBS Create, I love that channel, but I don't watch everybody's, like, cooking show. Like, I watch, I think his name is, this one dude named Yan. I forget his first name. I think it's Martin, I can't remember his name, but like, there's only a few shows on there I'll watch that has to do with cooking, and hers is like one of them. And it's a really cool show because, you don't always get the pleasure of like, always eating like Mexican food, especially like where I'm from and stuff like that. And so I've never really ate at one. And so, but whenever I do, I always get like tacos because that's the only thing I know of. But then when I see her cooking, I'm like, man, this food looks really interesting. She made a black eyed pea burger one time. And it looked like an actual hamburger, but it was made out of black eyed peas, not even meat. And that's insane. And she is Mexican, born in Mexico City, Mexico. And so, like, she has a family, and she's a chef who's, like I said, been on PBS Crate for like many years and stuff. I have to confess, though, when I first started watching her show, I watched it for the wrong intentions. I just watched it because she's smoking hot. I mean, I was just like flipping through the channels, like, hey, what's on TV? And I'm like, oh, whoa, who is this? So I just started watching her show, and I just ended up liking her show and everything. But like, yeah, it's just like, I mean, that's shallow and everything. But hey, at least it like introduced me to her and started watching her show. Some of the biggest representation came from that of Shay Mitchell when she was on Pretty Little Liars. I do believe she is of that Latino like heritage because her mother's Filipino, and in her name is actually Shannon Ashley Garcia Mitchell, which I didn't even know Garcia was part of her name, let alone everything else. And so, but when it comes to a lot of the Filipino people, even the Asian ones have like Hispanic sounding last name from when they were colonized. But like I said before, there are a lot of like Latinos actually there. And I do believe, from what I've read, they say she does have, her mother does have some Spanish, like, ancestry and stuff like that. And so I believe, don't quote me, but I do believe she is Latino. And she was on one of the most famous shows there is, Pretty Little Liars. And not only was she representing, like, the Latino part and like the Filipino part and stuff like that. But she was also like, her character was LGBT, and her character was like a huge fan favorite throughout like the audience and stuff. Then there's Justice League, the cartoon series with Hawk Girl. Hawk Girl is an alien. She's always been portrayed looking as white in the comics and stuff. And so when they brought her into the show, they gave her a bit of a tan, and she had the same color hair she does in the comics. But nobody never really knew what she looked like until the end of the second season, because she always wore a mask. And she was voiced by a Cuban actress and everything. Very famous. She's the mother from Wizards of Waverly Place. And so when they started showing her more without her mask, I believe they race bent the character to be like, this Cuban alien and stuff, which was really cool, because when we saw more of her people who came to Earth, they had the same colored skin, and they had like a Latino type flair to them and stuff like that. So that was really cool that they was willing to like, race bend the entire like species to fit more with that of the actress. And she's a lovely actress. I'm such a fan of hers. Like, I love her voice work. I love the way she looks. She has a great smile and everything. And it's like she still looks exactly the same as she did like when I first saw her on a show called Popular, and that of Wizards of Waverly Place. Yvette has a very cool character. She plays on Stargirl. She plays Yolanda, who is Wildcat 2.0. And she's from the comics, and she's Latino in the comics as well. And her character is probably like the second best character of this show. She's very complex. She's very emotional. She goes through two amazing story arcs in the first two seasons, and she's a very strong fighter. Season 3, however, isn't doing much of nothing with her or most of the other cast. I don't know what the world's going on in season 3. I remember Cisco Ramon from like The Flash. He was literally the smartest person on the show. This dude could invent anything. He was like wisecracking. He was never a stereotype. He went through so many different like character development arcs, and he was a superhero on top of that. And that was always good representation. Good representation is in the Marvel superhero show, The Runaways, where we had two Latinos, Gertrude and that of Molly. And Gertrude, also known as Gert, yeah, that's her name. She was a feminist and a very intelligent person, high strong, very determined, very self-aware, but she did have a bit of a problem after a while. Like she needs like certain medication and stuff, but other than that, she was a person who was always like determined in the show. And Molly was like the youngest, and she was like extremely strong, and they really overlooked Molly because she was the youngest. But she proved that just because she is the youngest, she has those superpowers that give her super strength, and she is a force to be reckoned with. She always has the team's back and everything, and was always like an upbeat person who was always like the heart of the show. One thing I always loved seeing was like Latino representation in like police shows, because normally when you see Latinos and stuff, they always play like gangsters or maids or something like that, and it was always cool to see them playing cops. And three of the most famous like Latino, or four actually, the most famous Latino cops I remember is from a show called Cold Case with Scotty Valens, and he was introduced in like the 6th episode and became like a huge staple on the show, which like very dramatic like storylines, and he was just a hard-nosed cop. And then I remember there was a show called Without a Trace, and they introduced a Latino character, I believe in season 4 through 7. She was on there for like 3 seasons, and she was a very intelligent cop, very strong, and always stood up for herself. I think her name was Eleanor Diego, no, Delgado. And so like, and I remember she was the actress who plays her, Rosalind. She was the detective type cop or the FBI agent in the second Rush Hour movie. And then, of course, let's not forget New York Undercover. Like, that was the first time I've ever seen like a Latino cop in Eddie Torres and stuff. And I remember they later on brought in the detective Nina, who was also Latino, very strong, very tough, very determined. And they were never like stereotypes. That's what I always liked about them. And New York Undercover was such a great show. Like, it was cool seeing a black cop and a Latino cop because, like, when it comes to the black and Latino community, we should always have each other's backs. But sadly, we always pitted against each other in the workforce and everything. And we all know who's pitting us together against each other and stuff. Because of course, if we're feuding with each other, we ain't gonna have each other's backs. And then one other group is gonna like succeed over the other until we're like both gone. And that's quite a shame in the world we live in. Raven was one of my favorite characters on the 100. The 100 was a sci-fi young adult type of drama that was on the CW, and Raven was the smartest person there, or one of the smartest. She was an engineer. She was good with electronics and stuff, and I always gravitate more to those smarter characters and stuff. And I really liked the actress who plays her. The actress was so good in that show. She was so strong, and like her character went through like a lot. Her character was technically like because they have very strict rules on that show, in that universe, and like she was technically like a criminal along with the other teenagers, and she was supposed to be sent to the detention unit and down to earth, but her boyfriend took the rap for her, and then later on, like, she went down to earth. She was able to get a signal out to like the ark, and then at some point she got shot and lost her mobility. And even though she was on like these crutches, she still was determined to like save her team and everything like that. And I always liked that about her character. Then there's Jennifer Lopez. Whether you love her or hate her, she is one of the most successful Latin women of all time. This woman started off as like a backup dancer on In Living Color. Then she became one of the most successful singers of all time and had a pretty steady like movie career and stuff. And let's not forget the actress who played in Taina, one of the first like Latin American shows on Nickelodeon. And sadly, it did not last that long, but people still fondly remember it till this day. And speaking of Taina, Nickelodeon tried to like repurpose and rebrand that success with Victoria, starring Victoria Justice. And she went on to have her own show, her own music career, and she even branched off in some other stuff away from like teen comedies, like with R.L. Stein's Eye Candy. However, Eye Candy did not last that long. I couldn't get into that show. I tried to watch the first episode and I just could not get into that show. And let's not forget how Rita Moreno changed the whole playing field for that of Carmen Sandiego. Like, Carmen Sandiego started off as like a computer game, and then it later went to like a game show, a television game show, and then it had its own cartoon series. Now, Carmen Sandiego, nobody never knew her race. People always assumed she was either white or like Italian because of her complexion, because you never really see her face, and she had light brown hair. But when Rita took over the role, they decided to make the character Latino. And ever since then, in the 90s, the character has now been portrayed as like a Latina. Even in the Netflix reboot, they made her extremely Latino in that. Also, can't forget one of the most famous Latinos in animation, Dora the Explorer, who has taught so many young little kids like education and the Spanish language. And let's not forget her cousin Diego. Jessica Alba is one of the most famous Latinos there is. She starred in a number of movies, and she had her own television show that like rocketed her to like fandom and stuff with Dark Angel. And she held down that show, showing just how tough and like, what a great actress she was. However, she did kind of like piss a lot of people off when she was in those Fantastic Four movies, only because, not because of the quality of those movies, only because she technically played a white woman in those movies. And no matter how much they tried to bleach her hair and put blue contacts in her eyes, we knew she wasn't white. Even ABC knew the importance of Latino representation when they cast a Latina as one of the main characters in Once Upon a Time, playing the evil queen, who started off evil, but as the show progressed, turned good and stuff. Then in season 7, they recast the role of Cinderella with a Latino actress, Tia Carrera, who was born in Hawaii and has ancestry in that of, I believe, Chinese, Filipino, but I believe Latina descent, I believe. She had her own television show in the late 90s, early 2000s with a show called Relic Hunter. And she was no stereotype. She was strong, she was athletic, she was brilliant. She was like a person who goes around the country looking for artifacts and stuff like that. It was a really good drama. Representation is extremely important, especially in the Latin community. And the Latin community almost saw some of the biggest representation on the big screen in the form of Batgirl and Supergirl. Now, Supergirl might still happen. They cast a Mexican, or Latino, I should say, actress to play Supergirl. She's supposed to appear in the Flash movie. However, her role might simply be decreased in the coming future. See, because of all the controversy surrounding the DCEU and the Snyderverse and many of their stars leaving, like Ben Affleck left, and I'm not even sure if he's back permanently or not, but he's appearing to do a couple of reshoots just to help the company out. Henry Cavill, I still have no idea what's going on with him. Supposedly The Rock has brought him back. And well, Warner Brothers was going to go in a completely different direction. They were going to go in the direction of Batgirl and Supergirl, since they had problems with the two actors who play Batman and Superman, with Henry Cavill not wanting to do a cameo and Ben Affleck not agreeing on what the solo Batman movie should be about. This happened all a couple of years ago. Stuff is still changing as I'm speaking right now. And so they was going to go the direction of Batgirl, Supergirl. And they cast a Latino actress to play both roles. Now, like I said before, Supergirl was supposed to be in that of The Flash, and she still is. And Batgirl was supposed to get her own movie. Originally, it's supposed to be an HBO Max movie, but then they decided to make a theatrical movie. Then came the devil himself, David Zaslav. See, at some point, it was rumored that some higher up at Warner Brothers decided they're not going in the direction of Batgirl, Supergirl, and they just want to focus on Batman and Superman. And so David Zaslav is, and soon after that, David Zaslav bought the company, so he is now the head of Warner Brothers and stuff, or Warner Brothers Discovery, I should say. And David Zaslav, he saw the Batgirl movie and decided, and the most controversial thing ever, he told everybody he saw it wasn't good enough to be released theatrically, and that he's just canceling the entire movie, when the movie was just literally done. They only had a few things to fix up on the movie, and it would have been ready to present. Then he did a tax write-down, and as a result, he tried to get money back off the movie because he is in debt, and Warner Bros. Is in debt over $3 billion. So he did a tax write-down to get the money back from Batgirl and stuff. And this came as a huge shocker. And the thing is, the movie, a lot of people who saw it said it wasn't bad at all. It was actually pretty decent. And it got the same test scores as The Rock's Black Adam movie and the Shazam 2 movie. So if they both had the same test scores, why wasn't Batgirl good enough to be presented to the world and stuff? So now that robbed everybody of the first Latino Batgirl. And as a result, Now nobody knows what's going to happen with the Latino Supergirl because Henry Cavill is supposedly back thanks to The Rock and everything. And that's totally messed up. Like, could you imagine filming an entire movie, putting your heart and soul in it just to have it canceled just because somebody needs money off it? And David Zaslav has kept Ezra Miller's bad behind to be in the Flash movie because that movie's supposed to make over $1 billion and David Zaslav wants the money back from it. And it's too expensive to do like reshoots and recast like a different person. So he's willing to keep the person who's been terrorizing people for 4 years, breaking into people's home, assaulting people. Ezra Miller has literally took a chair, bashed a woman in the head with it, and cut her forehead open. Like an inch cut, but yet he gets rid of the Latino Batgirl and everything. That is messed up. Now, bad and atrocious, diabolical representation of Latino culture came in the Charmed reboot. I have talked about this a couple of times, and I'm about to talk about it again. So, Charmed, the original series, starred a bunch of like white actresses, and I think one was like Italian, something like that, back in the day. And so they made a reboot a few years back. It didn't last that long. It just now got canceled. It was marketed as, a Latino reboot. And so when people looked at the actresses and everything, they started to notice a little something. That everybody looks quite Latino. Some do and some don't. And so one of the characters in there, so people started doing some research into their backgrounds. And it turns out the three sisters who's supposed to be Latino, now one on the show was already marked as Latino Black. And so when people did their backgrounds, only one actress, one, was actually Latino. The other two didn't have a trace in them. One is mixed with black and indigenous, and the other one is like black and white. But the CW tried to fool everybody into pretending that these were three Latino actresses. Only one was actually Latino. And so when they got found out, what they tried to do was try to retcon the show and say that the black indigenous girl, that she was also black and Latino, but she doesn't have a trace of Latino in her and everything. And what the world, man? Like, if you are going to say that your show is going to be diverse and your show is supposed to star Latino, because the only reason why they changed the ethnicity wasn't for representation. It was because of the 2016 election when Trump said, Mexicans are like criminals and this and that. So that's around the time television shows were starting to bring in more diversity and Latino diversity, because they had rebooted Party of Five with a Latino cast, and it only lasted for a season. And so they did the same thing with Charmed. And when people started researching, it totally backfired in their face. Not only that, but you really didn't, because I didn't watch the show for that long. I only watched the first season, a little bit of the second, and I stopped. I just couldn't take the show because it just wasn't all that great. But okay, here's the thing that really pissed a lot of people off. If this was supposed to be Latino based, where was the Latino witchery in this, like the witchcraft and stuff? The show only talked about typical English, white type of witchcraft. And so people was all like, well, we would like to learn something about Hispanic folklore, Hispanic, there has to be something in Hispanic culture about witches and demons and all this other stuff. So the audience wanted to hear about that, but they never did. Everything was always English type, British base and everything. And so not only did they pull the wool over people's eyes with a fake Latino cast, but with fake Latino folklore, magic, and all this other stuff. And no wonder people was outraged, and the show eventually got canceled because the show just wasn't that good. And so it made no absolute sense. And there was only, like I said before, only one of the sisters was actually a Latino actress and stuff. And so this is a bad stain on the network. they tried to get away with something with their fake diversity. And, because they've done this other times before with a show, like the CW, they are diverse. I judge if their diversity is genuine. I talked about that before and stuff. But it's kind of like, how in the world are you going to do some crap like this? It's not hard to find Latino actresses. It's not. And if you can't find none, contact one from another country who speaks English and bring them on over here and have them act in your show or movie. It's not that hard. Representation always matters. It matters because you want to see yourself on screen and you want to see yourself in a positive light. Now, it's okay to play a villain, but it would be nice to see somebody play the hero or the nice person or the comedic or something like that, And so this is why casting directors need to change in Hollywood. They need to stop casting Italians, white, Jewish people, Iranians, and Indian people as Latinos. Like, that makes absolutely no sense. There are Hispanic people in Mexico. There are those that are actors and actresses. Hire them. They want the roles. You know what I'm saying? You rarely see them on TV. And when you do, it's not even them. Alrighty. Well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.